What we're seeing by the Republican Party, and I give it to them, we're seeing a long game. We're seeing that they are dismantling or attempting to dismantle institutions. All of a sudden, the most elite colleges and universities in the world, which, by the way, they all went to. Everybody in the Supreme Court went there. Elise Stefanik went there. All the Congress people went there. Ted Cruz went there. Those schools are not good enough anymore because, I think, because now people that don't look like them were getting in. Affirmative action, no more. Why? So that people that don't look like them don't get in. Women don't have reproductive rights anymore over their own bodies. Why? So they can have power over women. Why is French and Mandarin and Spanish being taken away from our public schools? So that we can be a monolingual society and can't compete globally? The Republicans, are intentionally dumbing down our electorate, erasing history so that past can become prologue and so they can remain in power. And it's grievance politics at its best, and it's because people see what Sarah was saying. I can't pay my electric bill. My gas bill's high. I need my food. And why is that? Why is my station in life like this? It's because that black guy got into Harvard and became president. Or it's because that immigrant is over there doing better than driving a nicer car than I'm driving. It's grievance politics, but culture wars specific. And I wish people could see it in that way because this is not by accident.
Let's back that up with history. For a long time, poor white people and all black people were kind of put in the same box. When they said all men were created equal, they were talking about all white land-owning men. Those land-owning men, those white land-owning men, were the only ones that got a chance to vote until Andrew Jackson was elected. Because then they said, okay, we're going to let all men vote. And look at how bad they treat women. Even though, and let's just put it in hierarchy, let's say slaves or those that were enslaved were the lowest of the low, right? They put freed slave men over their own white women. And they gave free enslaved men, former enslaved men, the right to vote before they gave women, their own women, the right to vote. Women did not get the right to vote in this country until 1920. Black men got to vote in this country in 1865, 6, and 7. But it was politicians who came out there and said, your white skin puts you in a better category. Go back to the movie Gangs of New York. One thing that all of those white people agreed upon was that blacks did not belong there. But when they get within each other, white people fight within each other. They have their own little cliques. So on the larger context, you're black, you're yellow, you're brown, you're other. You don't belong here. But once they get, and I'm not talking about all white people, but for those white people, a kick dog, a holler. So you know who I'm talking about. When you get down into white society, if you're not Protestant, Catholic, Irish, whatever, you don't belong. The first Catholic president was John F. Kennedy. Why? Because white people did not trust Catholic people. Why? Because they thought that they were controlled by the Pope. You think I'm lying? Go look up former New York Governor Al Smith, who was Catholic and tried to run for president and found out why, as a Catholic, he could not be president. So white people do that. And then go back to this Harvard thing she was talking about. Harvard was around 130 plus years before John Adams went to it. Harvard is older than America. And their endowment, Harvard's endowment, is $52 billion. And you put a black person in charge of that? You make a black person the dean of Harvard College? No. Not only did she plagiarize some stuff, and that was, that's on her, but not only that, but you got people out there saying, we're not going to donate to Harvard because a black person is the face of Harvard now. That's just the way it is. And that's what she's talking about. Republicans, go back to what Kevin McCarthy said about his own party. Kevin McCarthy said about his own party, when you look at the Democrats, they look like America because there's black, Asian, Hispanic, transgender, whatever inside that party. You look at the Republican Party, we look like an old country club. It's full of old white men, sprinkled with a little white women. And every now and then they'll get an anomaly, like a black person. Donald's in the House, Tim Scott in the Senate. So this is what the Republican Party is, and they don't want black people there. Do you realize that we won't get another black president for at least another 20, 30, if not 50 years? Do you know how hard it's going to be to put another black man in the White House with this Republican Party? That just is what it is. So she's not lying when she says this. She's not lying when she says we're going to make government smaller. But they make government smaller in a way that makes it larger for them. George W. Bush. George W. Bush wanted to follow in the veins of Ronald Reagan in making the country smaller. And what did he create? He created the Department of Homeland Security, which increased government. You talk about Donald Trump, who wanted to make the government smaller. And what did he create? The Space Force. He made government larger. And let's not talk about how they did white women when it comes to abortions. They made white women vote against their own interests. Because what white women didn't realize was they use that kind of service, not saying that they use abortions a lot, but they use Planned Parenthood for medical emergencies and medical and family planning more than any other race of women. So they got white women to vote en masse to put Republicans in office. And what did Republicans do? They put 3 Supreme Court judges on the bench, which they stole 2, and got them to remove Roe versus Wade. And then when they realized that white women are suffering more than any other race of women, then those same white women said, hey, black women, come help us out. And black women are like, no, we fucking told you. Just like Asians, when Asians said, hey, get rid of affirmative action. And get rid of affirmative action because it's hurting us as a group. So what they do? They got rid of affirmative action, and then they realized that Asians was using it more than any other race of people. And then they said, hey, black people, come help us out and fight this. And black people like, no, fuck that. You voted against your own interests. That's what they do. They dumb down the information, and they're real effective at it. They dumb down the information so you don't understand. And when they get in power, they take it from you. She was right. She was eloquent. She was articulate. She was way better than what I could do. What do you think?